What will you do once you graduate? It will be here before you know it. Have you started planning yet? Believe it or not, it's not too early to start thinking about what you will do. And the Richmond Area Career Center can help you figure things out. With almost 20 career areas to explore, the Career Center offers students at Richmond High School, Northeastern High School, and Randolph Southern High School a chance to explore careers, earn college credits, and even get certified in their chosen career field. Maybe you want to be a nurse or enjoy fixing cars. What about working with computers and other technology? You could even learn about being a teacher, building homes, becoming a cosmetologist, and doing hair and makeup. You could be on TV. Or, in our very latest program, you can work towards becoming a firefighter. Here's a quick look of the list of programs available to you through Richmond High School Area Career Center. Now let's take a look at just a few of our programs so that you can see for yourself that it's hands-on at the Richmond Area Career Center. In drafting, students get to use professional software for a number of our real-world projects. Maybe you've seen a couple at our football and basketball games.
I specialize in Inventor, which is a program we have for 3D modeling, and AutoCAD, which is basically just a drafting program. It's like a really advanced drawing program, like for the fog machine that we have and the air cannons. All that stuff I had to design up to get the most efficient and the most compact / best thing that we can come up with for the job we have to do.
Our automotive students get to do real work on real vehicles, not just in the classroom, but in our state-of-the-art shop.
The kind of things we do in this class is just everything from simple mechanics like changing oil to things that get quite interesting like changing out transfer cases, rebuilding transmissions and motors.
And maybe high-tech is the way you want to go. Project Lead the Way can help you prepare to be an engineer.
And I'm taking the Project Lead the Way classes, and they're going to help me in my college career since they're medical classes and I'm going to be a surgeon, they'll help me a lot more in that field by knowing a lot more than I would without taking them.
But our newest program could be our most exciting. In conjunction with the Richmond Fire Department and the Richmond Area Career Center, you can start your path to become a firefighter.
This program gives you that upper edge. It gives you your EMT and hopefully your firefighter 1 and 2, which when you go in for an interview, they'll give you them preference points to help you get on, because it's all on a point system. But this will give you the experience of being on a fire truck, kind of helping out with the EMS, get you really involved with the community.
So as you can see, it's hands-on, career-ready, real-world experiences at the Richmond Area Career Center. Just like this video. You see, I'm a student here at Richmond High School, and I'm a DJ at the local radio station G1013, and it was all made possible because I took advantage of the things here at the Richmond Area Career Center at Richmond High School.
Welcome to our February the 12th, 2014 work session of Richmond Community Schools Board of School Trustees. Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will begin this evening with the reading of our mission statement, please.
Certainly. Richmond Community Schools mission. Graduate students who are literate, responsible, proficient in state and national standards, and college and career ready.
Thank you, Susie. And now our vision statement.
The board vision is that by 2020, Richmond Community Schools will be the highest performing school system in East Central Indiana.
Thank you, Kelly. And now we're ready for consent items.
Our consent items tonight include approval of the minutes, recommendation by Human Resources, Recommendation for an RFP approval for third grade academy. Recommendation for the high school running track and field bid. Recommendation to approve the 2014 Summer of E-Learning grant from the Indiana Department of Education. Recommendation to approve the corporate-sponsored field trip and a request to ratify, I believe that's the movement of our graduation. The Human Resources comes with an addendum or not? Not sure.
I don't think so.
I don't believe so. No, okay. So those are the consent items that I am submitting for approval.
A motion made by Kelly Baumgartner, seconded by Jeff Slifer. Comments or questions? Aaron?
If I could address this in regards to the track and the field bid, specifically, and when we were looking at this about a month or so ago, I guess I failed to realize any renovation that we're doing is for a 7-lane track. May I ask, why not 8? The reason being is I know that we've been several years without having a sectional or major track invitationals here, and one of the things that, especially now in the IHSAA, that you lose these things if you don't have a minimum of 8 lanes. And that question has come up because it's, we've lost some revenue over the last 12 years by not having the sectional and other things because of the 7 lanes.
Well, I met with Mr. Bolzer this morning, and we discussed exactly what you're talking about. The problem with the 8-lane track versus 7-lane track, if we had the 8-lane track, we would have to move it from the south and east because there's not enough clearance on an 8-lane track around the concrete retaining wall and the bleachers both on the east and west side. And so we would not be able to have a sanctioned meet with that clearance, and it would also be a liability question where if anybody would get injured, then the designer, the school would all probably end up in a lawsuit. In talking with the 2 companies in the state of Indiana that do track design and so forth, they would not even bid on the project if we had that kind of condition because of the liabilities. The other thing is on the 8-lane track and moving it, we wouldn't be able to maintain the asphalt base that we have now. The asphalt base for the existing track, we're able to just peel off like they do in the streets, peel off the top surface and then come back and repair the cracks and come back and put a new surface. And that's saved us between $75,000 and $80,000 for that portion. And if we would go to an 8-lane track, then it would not have been feasible within the budget that we had available for the track. Now, to answer your other question about the meets, it's my understanding that they have 2 meets a year. For some reason, one year it's 1 meet, and the next year it's 2 meets, and they're just dual meets. And that the only reason why they even have the dual meets is to get the lower classmen, the non-starters on the track team, a chance to participate. Most of the, or not all of the meets now are on Saturdays, and they're invitational meets. And that Chad said our chances, even if we had an 8-lane track, of having an invitational meet would not be very, very good. Also, on the sectional or the regional track meet, if we had an 8-lane track, we would probably never have a sectional meet because of the way the state is set up with the meets. Now, with that being said, if we did have that occasion, he's been working and talking with Earlham to be in conjunction with the Earlham track and holding a sectional, if we had a sectional, maybe once in 5 or 6 years, or hold a invitational meet that we might have one in 3 or 4 years at Earlham. and they're in the process of doing that. Our track has always been a 7-lane track, even when it was designed in the 30s, which doesn't mean that's the right way to go. It just means that we've been able to work that way without it. Early on, all of our track meets were at Earlham on the track that was beside Trueblood Fieldhouse. So it's something that he is looking at, and he's satisfied with the fact with a 7-lane track where he can use it for junior or for intermediate school and elementary school track programs. It's a great practice track, but it's also good for intramural, for gym classes, and for people walking. And so we felt that it was worth doing the 7-lane track. There were some individuals out there that felt, well, if we're not going to put an 8-lane track, don't do anything. Well, if you look at the track now, we have to do something. And the most economical way of doing it was, I said, was scraping off the surface that's there, fixing the cracks, and coming back and putting a new track surface down.
Thank you for that explanation. I know that there were a number of people who had contacted me about that, having formerly coached track here, and being aware that again, they're realistically, with my knowledge of what is happening with the IHSAA now, even if we had an 8-lane track, there is still no way, probably, we'd be years away from unseating Connorsville or Shelbyville or any place else in regards to.
And it just boiled down to the best use of taxpayer dollars.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And now we are ready for a favorite segment, celebrating the joy of learning.
One of the requests at the last board meeting was to have a compilation of events that have taken place between the last board meeting and this board meeting. And the idea was that we would have a quick slide or so that would document what's happened in the district during that time period. Well, we did a compilation, and it's
How many pages?
1, 2, 3, 5 pages.
Figured.
This has, these are single space, 5 pages, and it's basically a recording of the calendars from each of our school buildings. I noticed in the high school, this is a calendar, but this is just the athletic events. This is almost 3/4 of a page. This is probably 3/4 of a page, just athletic events. We haven't put the academic events on here and artistic events. So what we're going to have to do, if we want to go forward, we need to have some idea from you, what criteria should we use to determine what it is in these lists of events that you would like to highlight? Because we could have I suppose, a scrolling marquee type presentation, but to put these on a single slide would make the print so small that we wouldn't even gain anything by projecting it. And it's great information. I mean, for example, like example at Charles, the music program at Civic Hall on January 22nd. Circle the State practice on the 28th, academic team practices on the 30th, Parents as Leaders Academy on February 8th. Some of these are overlapping because it seems like I saw Devilette dance practice at almost all the elementaries. Crestdale School, we had trips to the Richmond Art Museum, Art is Mexico. We had that in several of the elementary buildings, if not all of them. At Fairview, More Than Words Assembly. The West End Bank sponsors the Star Lab, it looks like, at Fairview at some point. At Vail, besides from the PTO meetings, we also had Devilette dance practice, the school skate. I could go on and on and on. The buildings are very busy places.
Well, what a great problem to have.
It is a great problem. Where do you cut that off? So my question is, if you would like to have a display of, I know that your idea was that during our celebration, we tend to celebrate only those events that we have either come into contact with personally or have heard about. And I think that's a great concern that the board has, that you want to make sure that no one is forgotten. But we're going to be challenged every board meeting to do something that is significant and illustrating the wide variety of events that we have going on in that 2-week period at all of our buildings.
Well, obviously now that we have an idea of how active all of our schools are, we need to continue our conversation and decide what we want our direction to be. Does anybody have any comments right now?
I would say break it down into two things. The achievements that may occur over, have that running thing of the achievements that have occurred over a 2-week period prior to this board meeting or the next board meeting, from the schools. That may narrow it down to some of the things. We're not going to talk about every basketball win or every this or that, but some of the highlighted achievements that are occurring with the schools. Name 1 or 2 with each of the schools. And then also have something completely separate of upcoming events too, if that's possible. That way it makes the separation. We're going to highlight these and we're going to celebrate these achievements from Crestel, from Fairview, from Dennis, from Test, these 1 or 2 things.
Again, it would have to be scrolling, though,
Yes,
in the background.
yes.
I don't know how else you do it. Even with that, I mean, practices and such, obviously, that seems a little much, but.
Well, I'm not talking about having practices in there. A school wins a statewide recognition. That's something that you want to highlight, as opposed to there's going to be basketball practice tonight.
So this, I hate to say significant, but, well, and there are some overlapping activities here, like many of the schools now are attending the Art is Mexico, is that not what it is? And so, that could be actually one item. So there's been science fairs, and so that could be another item. So probably some of them could be condensed.
Does it help if we focus on those that are open to the public?
That are what?
Open to the public.
Maybe. I mean, we can give it some thought.
I don't know if it does, but that would be, one of our missions is to get as many people, I think, in our buildings experiencing some of this wonderful activity as possible. So if we could, if that helps, I don't know that it does, but that's a possible cutoff.
A partnership activity wouldn't necessarily be an accomplishment, but it's worth noting.
Maybe that's a highlight. Maybe that's.
Could be a highlight.
Maybe we pull out the partnerships and we scroll the open stuff or something. I don't know. I was just looking for ways to sort.
We do a lot of celebrating on Facebook. Bridget's good about putting like the science fairs and celebrating each school. And as far as upcoming events, we do have that on the calendar and on the website and on Facebook. There are some things, achievements like the bowling team and the basketball team beating Marion. That was very exciting. Things that don't happen every week, that I think you want to bring up. I don't know how you sort them out, but.
Well, obviously, we need to think about it and maybe.
We will give it some thought. We will give that some thought.
Thank you. And thank you, Bridget, for putting this together. And
I'd like to move the communities and schools recognition to another board meeting. Not that it's not worthy of celebrating, but we would like to have Vivian Ashmaui here, and she couldn't be here. And we need to celebrate her, maybe some of her coordinators, building coordinators as well. So that couldn't happen tonight, and this is not necessarily something that needs to take place tonight. So I'd like to move that to another meeting.
okay, great. Okay, we're moving on to action items.
The first action item tonight has to do with a grant approval request from Hibbard. And I would like to ask Mrs. Gibbs to come to the podium and introduce this project. And I think she has some special guests who will help her with this presentation.
I have one member of the team from our early college 8th grade group that took this on as a service learning project. And so she's here to present. I told her that I would help her out and read parts of it and get my glasses on. So, well, this is our 8th grade from Hibbard Intermediate School, and service learning is an important part of our program. And our group chose to lead a project working to create an easily accessible playground for the Life Skills program at Hibbard.
We have a few general purposes or reasons for what we are doing. Our first listed purpose is already apparent: to provide the Life Skills playground that they can access easy. We already have a very nice and complete playground at Hibbard, but it is located far away from where these students are located, and a number of them are handicapped, making it extremely difficult for them to enjoy playtime outside. Our second purpose is to build relationships with other students in our program building. Students in the early college section of Hibbard haven't had enough opportunities to communicate or interact with students from the other program, and we want to change that. Last, and as we mentioned before, service learning is a large part of the early college program.
There's some fairly obvious materials we'll need to complete this project. We'll need fencing because the area the playground will be in is right next to a busy street, which could pose threats to curious students wanting to exit the playground area. The next most important material is playground equipment, which is self-explanatory, and we've produced a list of desired equipment. And the next two items we need are people to excavate the cement in the playground area, and of course mulch to cover the area. And our district will help us provide those two things. We didn't get the terminate change task. We worked through this afternoon. It didn't get edited, it looks like.
Our total project budget is $29,253. This will pay for fencing, a picnic table, the area excavation, and mulch, play equipment, and its installation. Fortunately, we already have a frame available for the handicap accessible swings. As you can see on the slideshow, we want to purchase swings, a slide, honeycombs to climb in, and an egg-shaped piece of equipment to rock back and forth in, a small crane type piece of equipment, and a sand table. We currently have $10,000 of our needed money from donations and services provided by the district. Our group can't buy necessary materials without money. We would like to hold numerous fundraisers to collect money towards our projects. One idea was to hold a school carnival at Hibbard. Our group could make our own games for the event. However, this is still in planning and we don't have very many details. The next way to collect money would be to receive donations. We will look especially for organizations helping handicapped children and contact them through phone, email, letter, or other methods. The last way we want to use to fundraise money is submitting a Lowe's grant. This has been completed with a layout of what we are doing. However, it will be at least 2 months before we know the results of our submission.
This grant would be for $4,932, which includes the cost of fencing and installation. By March, our goal is to order our fencing and excavate the playground area.
By early April, we want to begin fundraising and install our fencing. We also want to start ordering playground equipment, but we may have to push that step back. We will order pieces of equipment step by step.
By May or June, we want to have some of the equipment installed.
All of our dates can be delayed or pushed back. We cannot predict how much money we can raise with fundraisers, and we may not receive a grant from Lowe's. So our project will most likely run into the summer or future school years. we would like to have next year's Early College Preparatory Academy 8th graders continue this project. We care about everyone in our school, and we want to see smiles on their faces as they enjoy their own play area.
This was developed by the 8th grade group, and they did a nice job thinking it through. They created the PowerPoint from an app. It's haiku something, but they knew exactly what I needed to do to get that up on the screen. So, they're pretty good with their technology. Anybody have any questions?
Well, I have a comment. I really appreciate the timeline. I think that is well planned and great idea.
And that, again, when they developed this, they knew they needed to have purposes. They knew they needed to have a timeline. That was all of their work. So they're learning a lot through their service learning about how to organize and put things together. So I was really proud of their
So
work.
how are you working with the life skills students to develop this?
We have asked them what they would like and what stuff that they would enjoy, and
They went in and actually met with the kids and
Right.
and the teachers. They worked with the teachers too.
So is the proposed spot for this then in the green space that's in between the building and the street, or is it actually proposed out into the parking lot in the back?
And there's a rectangle right outside between the two exits on the west side of the building. There's a rectangle there, and so it'll be fairly small, and it will have equipment targeted to our autistic kids and our younger students. We have 4th graders now in our life skills program.
Anybody else? Sounds like a great project, and congratulations to this point, and
Good luck.
good luck.
They're looking for an approval from the board
For
for
the
the
Lowe's
submission of the Lowe's grant.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Aaron
So moved.
Stevens, and seconded by Suzanne. Questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Our second recommendation tonight under
Go
action
ahead.
has,
You have something to add?
I'm so sorry, Jamie. This is Jamie Weigel. She is one of our 8th graders. She's quite a wonderful student.
Come on up to the microphone, so we make sure we get you on record.
State her name again, so far.
Okay, this is Jamie Weigel, and she's one of our 8th grade early college students.
Thank you,
Thanks
Jamie.
for being a
That's-
representative, Jamie.
Excellent
Nice touch.
job.
Nice
I
job.
Presenting.
apologize.
thank you very much. Now we move on to the second action item. Meeting before last, I believe it was, we had a first reading of Policy 6000, and this has to do with finances across the corporation. It's an entire policy section. It's not one policy. Tonight, we are recommending the second reading and adoption of that entire section. This policy has been, this policy section has been revised by the department, by the finance department, business and finance department. It then went through another process of revision from the policy committee, which consisted of, at that time, Pat Heine and Kelly Baumgardner, again, members of the business staff, and myself. And so that's what we brought for a first reading, and then tonight, we're bringing this for a second reading and adoption.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept policy section 6000? Kelly Baumgartner makes the motion, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments and questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
The next item we have tonight is actually a board issue, but I would like to begin this conversation by explaining that we have just recently, or we are working right now with one more building, to complete a communication audit. And I'd like for Misty Hollis to talk to you just a bit about this communication audit and what we have discovered as we've been through the buildings, and what plans they're initiating as a result of some of the audit activity.
Thank you, Dr. Worth. Many of you know we went through a school-wide communication audit about 3 years ago. And through your conversations and discussions that we've had with you, we decided to just do a snapshot in time of comparing what the previous audit showed us and how well we were doing, basically grading us to see how we were doing. And so on January 7th, Bridget really led this effort, did research on categories to look at that were recommended from our previous audit. And I think you all received a copy of that through the board update. So we gauged things. Our areas that we covered were whether communication, whether it was newsletters were printed or whether they were online or both. Was the calendar that was online, was it updated at on that particular date? Facebook, if they had an opportunity to have a Facebook, did they have a means to have that, and which buildings did have it? Were they utilizing text alerts, whether it was through power announcement or through other avenues to do that? And then we wanted to gauge how they were utilizing the logo, our branding that we put into place a little bit over 3 years ago. And then one of the measurements of parent engagement that we looked at was the PTO involvement. And there were some really good conversations that came out through our meetings. So I want to just quickly walk through each building, and if there were some things that we have seen since we've met with them, I want to highlight those for you so you're aware of that quickly. With Charles, if you remember, if you looked across, they were solid in their methods of communications and the style and things that they were doing, that they are doing. One of the things that we take note of is that Mrs. Andrews has her own personal Twitter account, and that she is trying to communicate with parents through that way as well, which is just highlighting some ways to be involved with your child, read to your child, to some different ways of communicating to the parents through Twitter. They have done a great job. Matter of fact, all of the buildings have done a fantastic job in the last week to get everything updated on the online calendar, as you can see through the 5 pages that was shared with Dr. Worf tonight. So we celebrate what Charles has done. With Crestdale, very solid as well. Some things that Crestdale does, and I believe Westview has done this as well, is that they have, for their PTO night, sometimes celebrate students once a month or celebrate some activities. So that does give more reason for parents and students to come to the PTO meetings. So that was one thing that we noticed with Crestdale as well. Elizabeth Starr Academy is one that we still have to close out and meet with in the next week, and are looking forward to that. With Fairview, very solid across the board as well with them. And then Vail, it was a great opportunity to sit down with Mrs. Pribble, who is here tonight, and find out the other avenues of communication that happen with their building, one-on-one with parents. And one of the questions that Dr. Borf asked pretty much every principal, what other things do you feel like you're doing that we didn't note through this process that it's very important for communication? And one of those keys that we just take for granted is parent-teacher conferences and case conferences, and how critical that is in those moments. You're really highlighting and celebrating our school system and what we do for their child. And so Kathy, Mrs. Pribble, brought that to us, and that helped us as we've moved forward to look at just maybe some ways of 3 or 4 points we want to make sure are communicated to parents about our school system, and highlight that when they have their case conferences or their one-to-one parent-teacher conferences. So Vail has already met with Bridget, staff this week, and have learned how to put their newsletter online, looking at other methods as well, so we're excited about that. Westview, I do want to celebrate that they do have their kindergarten teachers has created a Facebook page. So they are starting to communicate with their parents as well. And then they do have, and we didn't note it at the time, but they do have text alert that they are using through Power Announcement as well. Dennis is doing a really good job, and there are ways that we feel like they can improve as well in branding, and they were very open to that. Also with making sure that their calendar was updated. And Hibbard, when we met with Mrs. Gibbs, it was really interesting because she made the comment that, hey, I communicate with my announcements every day, and she pulled out on her iPad this great PowerPoint presentation that's given to the students every day that's shown in their classroom. And so really what we've done is just taken that, she's done that now, and it's taken that and it's applied to her RCS website. And parents are able to access that instead of her having to recreate and do something else. We're just using a tool she already has in place and just putting it on the website. Everything's been updated in that area with their calendar as well. And as we met with Mrs. Wolpe regarding the high school, that's just a different entity over there. I mean, it really has a lot going on. And so we want to take into account all of that and make sure that we can try to bring it all in one place if at all possible. So their athletics page, if you've noticed recently, they have a Twitter athletics page account. They have Facebook for athletics. The Career Center, Bridget helped them get set up for Facebook as well. The band has its own Facebook page. But there's still a few things that we can do through the calendar, through some other things that we just kind of want to wrap in and make sure that it's marketed and branded in the best way possible. But they're doing really great things. Mrs. Wolpe already has a Twitter page, and students are following her on that account as well. And then we kind of, if you notice the last line, we graded ourselves as a district and things that we can do better. And one thing that we really took note of is key communication that gets to parents kind of the old-fashioned way, through the mail and as a marketing tool. So if you remember the Read Around Richmond piece that we used to do, we've contacted the previous person that helped us with that and are looking at ways to be creative and bring that back in and maybe expanding that. It's not just mail to Richmond, but maybe to some other communities surrounding Richmond as well, to give us an opportunity to say that we are the best choice in Richmond and in our area. So we're going to use that as a great marketing tool as well.
Great. Lots of
So
work
in
there,
closing,
lots
I
of
would just say
information.
I think it was a good exercise for all of us to go through. I think it helped us see where, you just in time you kind of forget little things and how we need to improve in those areas, and communication is still very important in what we do with our parents and in the community as well.
Okay.
That's a lead into your conversation.
Okay, well, we were talking in our executive committee about how we can be most efficient and effective in telling our story at the board level and at our board meetings. And with that said, Dr. Borf, I would like for you to talk a little bit about what happened at the beginning, really before we called the meeting to order, with our Career Center video.
One of the questions that we have asked ourselves in communication is, how do we get the story out? One of the other important questions that we have asked is, how do we process information? How do we process questions and communication that we get from outside? If we're open, how are we processing that? And the business community has many times asked us what we're doing in vocational ed. That's the old term, and if we're teaching the trades. Well, this is one of the ways that we are trying to process that kind of information need. And whenever we look at what a teacher does in the classroom, the exemplary teacher uses an opportunity to teach students. If they're building an assessment, they hope that the students can help build the assessment. If they're building any kind of an assignment, you want to incorporate students. in this approach to communicating the story, to telling the story, we employed the talent, the know-how of students in order to make that happen. And it's not the first time we've done it, but it's an update. It's an updated version of our entire career ed program. And if you recall, that was done by students. And so what we're being challenged to do is not only listen to what people need, but as we answer that need, as we answer that request, call upon our students to make learning relevant and skill development relevant. Call upon them to help us communicate the good things that are happening. And that's what you saw at the lead into this meeting.
I would like to also remind everyone how we got to the point that we are now with forming a committee about telling our story. It actually did come from students, and Corey Irwin is in our audience. He led a student group through a process of talking about what's going well at the high school and where improvements might be made, not only at the high school but throughout the district. And one of the things that they commented on, that they felt that there were lots of great things happening at the high school, but the story wasn't really getting much further than the high school. And so that prompted our board to begin thinking about how we can help in getting the story out about Richmond Community Schools. And so we have had conversation. We have a marketing committee that's been meeting for a couple of years now, at least 2 years. And so we have had a work session on telling our story. And what we have learned is that we're doing lots and lots of great things in Richmond Community Schools for kids, but we want to have a specific plan for how we go about sharing that information. And so with that being said, that brings us to a committee that we, the executive committee, talked about forming with our board members to develop that plan. And what this committee is going to do first is to set the goals and a timeline. And then we want to increase the committee to include teachers and community members to help have conversation and to help us formulate that plan. So tonight, what I would like to do is to invite any board member. That is what we're planning to do, right? I wanted to make sure that that was appropriate. So if any board member would like to be a part of this committee, you can either volunteer now or tell me after the meeting. And we will begin to set our goals and our timeline. And Dr. Borf or his designee will also join us in this adventure. But basically, I think what we are focusing on right now is how to make our board meetings the most efficient use of our time at board meetings to tell our story. And I think Aaron named it maybe our RCS Success Committee. So anybody have any questions?
Well,
Susie?
No question, but I'd be interested in helping.
Okay, great. Suzanne?
I would like to just participate primarily because I am on the marketing group. I would really like to be sure that those two groups are consistent regarding
That's
branding
very
and
important.
marketing.
Kelly?
I'd like to participate. This is a board committee?
This is a
It
board,
is.
so it will be subject to the open door law, and will have to be publicized and advertised correctly, and we'll make sure that that happens.
And who's leading the committee then? The board president or whoever we decide, or what?
Well, we haven't, we can talk about that
Okay.
in our meeting.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that Dr. Borf or his designee will also help to keep us focused. So, Suzanne?
And you said primarily, at least initially, you're interested in how do we use this forum to tell our story?
That was our thought as
Okay.
we began, now I know sometimes things evolve. And so we felt it was really important for us to set our goals and our timeline. And that would be the responsibility of us, the board, and then we will expand our committee after that is done, so that we are able to spell out what we want to get accomplished.
Yeah, I'll be on it too, but just for clarity, I mean, because it's a public meeting, then we don't have to worry about the majority because it's a public meeting. That's why all 7 board members can be on it if they want, right?
Mr. Cross needs to weigh in on this. Is there any problem if they have proper advertisement? Is there any problem with more than 4 of them?
No, I mean, if it's a board-appointed committee, the fact that there's one of them implicates the open door law. So 1 or 7, take your pick.
And I think the other thing that just to kind of reiterate, I think I see this first part of this first committee being a very short term, very, very focused, very short term. And then whether you choose as a board member to be involved in the next step of course, is up to you. So I see it as being really 2 separate processes. And I think that's kind of important.
Aaron?
I think what's also important is Suzanne's participation, because she brought it up, with being a key member of the marketing committee. I know that one thing that we had discussed is to make sure that you use the term that they're in line with each other. Still, at the same point, not taking away from what the marketing committee is doing and what this committee will be, though separate, making sure that they stay in line with goals and everything else. So,
This will be a little different, though, because I think this one is going to have more of a stringent report back feature. I think a lot of, not that what the marketing committee is doing is isolated, but some of what they're doing is kind of, I don't want to use the word secret because it's not.
You don't want to, you don't want to give up all your tricks to your competition.
So there's a lot of.
Well,
Thank you, Suzanne.
I'm sorry, that's just the truth.
And maybe we need to explain that the marketing committee is a superintendent's committee. This is a board committee, and there is a difference. Okay, anybody else want to volunteer at this time to be on the committee? Everybody's welcome.
I'll be there.
Okay, thank you. So I guess our next order of business will be to set a meeting time. And any comments about, generally we have tried to, when we have extra meetings, we try to do it on the opposite board meeting
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
You're talking about an evening again?
Whatever the pleasure of the group is.
I will share with you that the next marketing committee meeting is Tuesday, February 18th. I'm not sure if that helps.
Well, how about February the 19th that would be next Wednesday, for us to get started? Would that be,
Works for me.
After 5?
you want to do it after 5?
I would like to suggest, I would like to suggest 6-ish. Give people a chance to get dinner, I guess is what I was trying to think, if we're going to do evening. What you think? Okay.
So 6 o'clock?
I'm presiding over another board meeting at 5:30 then.
Aaron, is that a conflict with your
Well,
schedule?
I'm going to be at the meetings. I didn't volunteer to be on the committee right now because I know that my Wednesday nights are, if it's not this board meeting, I've got others. But I'm going to be there. I'll just be late.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Okay, everybody okay then with the 19th at 6 o'clock?
Here, in the boardroom?
Here.
This is the boardroom? Do we call it the boardroom?
And we'll have that advertised.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great.
We have.
Do I need to take action on that?
Does she have to
Being the
have
committee?
part,
It'd be appropriate. I mean, or the minutes can reflect that it was done by the executive, that's you, the president. So that's all you need to have.
so it wouldn't have to have
Okay.
action
Okay.
of that type?
The executive.
Ron?
I got one question, if I could direct to Suzanne. Misty and I were talking a few weeks ago about some issues regarding use of RCS's name, logo, image.
Yes.
The We Are Richmond logo, is that the one that's referred in your logo compliance?
Yes.
I would suggest maybe the marketing committee consider whether it wishes to go to the trouble of at least trademarking that in the state of Indiana. It's not a difficult process.
We have already discussed that and would like to move forward with that. I agree.
Okay, well, if you'd like my assistance, just let me know.
Absolutely. In fact, that was our next step, is to contact you about that. So.
Thank you, Ron.
This, on these action items, we're going to be taking a couple out of sequence. So if the public is trying to follow along with this, it might be a little cumbersome. I would like to recommend at this point that we have the public hearing on the additional appropriation and on the capital projects fund amended plan. These really should go before we take some of these other items that are in the action. So if I could turn this over to Mr. Coddington.
Yes, as we discussed at the last meeting, we need to have a public hearing. Now, is this 2 public hearings, Mr. Cross, or 1 public hearing for an additional appropriation and an amendment to the CPF?
Conceptually, it's two public hearings.
So we'd ask the board to convene to a public hearing for additional appropriation to the debt service.
Okay, do I have a motion to close this meeting and then open our public hearing? Motion made by Susie Hively, seconded by Aaron Stevens. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you. As we discussed last meeting, in our budget, we asked for 2 payments in this year's taxes, one in the fall and one in the spring, to pay for our new bond issue. The payment in the bond issue is not due until January the 15th. So we've collected the money, but the DLGF wants us to get it there 2 weeks in advance, so they have time to get it to the right bondholders. So we have the money. We're now asking the appropriation to come into this year's appropriation of $679,500, so we can draw the check the last week of December, send it, it'll be cashed in January. Nothing to do with the tax rates. The tax rates are exactly the same. It just allows us to pay this in 2014, December of 2014, as opposed to January of 2015. If there's any questions from the board or the public?
Questions?
It must be necessary every year,
No, no.
just the first time.
Yes.
Okay, do we need to take a motion on that, or?
No, this is just the public hearing. What I responded to last week is because I didn't anticipate with no tax rate, and to speed this up during the action items, now that we've had the public hearing, I will ask for the acceptance, but not at this time.
We'll come
Okay,
back to that.
okay. So do I need to close this public?
Yes.
Did you invite public hearing?
Pardon me?
Did you invite public input?
I thought I did.
Anyone from the public? Yes, you did, Bob, wishing to speak. Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing and open, can I do this all in one?
If they can follow you, you're fine.
Okay, and
Second.
open the next public hearing. Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Dixie Robinson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Again, the amendment to the Capital Projects Fund, as we discussed last month, we have the same appropriations, the same dollar amounts collected, but we had them approved in the wrong section. So we published in the paper, we're having a public hearing to say it has no impact, but instead of us buying $1,721,000 worth of land this year, which is what's been approved, we will spend $1,721,000 on capital projects funds within our capital projects plan and budget that was presented to you and to the public in August and September.
Anyone wishing to speak from the public? You are invited to come forward. Seeing none, could I have a motion to close our public hearing and to reopen our regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, and we have, let's go back now to 5.04, the 2014-16 amended CPF plan adoption. Mr. Coddington.
That the School Board of Trustees adopt the amended 2014 to 2016 capital projects plan as presented, and that administration be given permission to publish tomorrow morning the notice of adoption as presented.
I so move.
Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Our next item is the approval of an Indiana Secured School Safety Grant. Mr. Coddington.
2 points. Last year, we were approved for a $50,000 safety grant. Tonight, we're asking you to accept that because we were awarded that grant and to sign off on us receiving the funds for this grant. And number two, that we apply for a 2014-15 safety grant in the amount of $50,000 as appropriated by the state of Indiana's general legislature last year.
Okay, do I have a motion? Motion made by Kellen Baumgartner, seconded by Jeff Slifer. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
And Mr. Coddington.
And yes, we recommend that the School Board of Trustees approve the resolution for the additional appropriation to the debt service fund so we can now pay this in December as opposed to January the 2nd, as presented.
Okay,
I so move.
motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Dixie Robinson. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Last item has to do with the ratification, actually, of a Challenge Day grant application. Misty, you want to take care of that?
Yes, as you know, Miss Leslie Bolster helped organize and students at the high school helped organize our Challenge Day. And this is a grant that was received to help financially support that endeavor. We're just asking you to ratify that.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Suzanne Darengowski, seconded by Jeff Slifer. Comments or question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
And I would like to add a recommendation to approve a resolution, but I think I would like to do that after we've had our work session. I think we have people joining us tonight for the work session, and I think as soon as we can get to that, we ought to.
I think so too. Did you notice they were yawning or something? I'm trying to move. Okay. It's time for our public hearing, or not our public hearing, our press conference. Anyone from the press? Okay, seeing none, we can now move on to our work session.
Okay, we would like to break at this point and move to the lobby where we have set up chairs and we can all sit around there and look at one another as we're talking, rather than have this formal setting up here at the board meeting. So let's take about 5 minutes and walk down to the lobby. We'll all join.
Follow you That's great.
Some jokes are just too good to die.
That was bad.
I was just educated to not.
Still have some action.
Back to business here. So our next item is public commentary. Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Where is the public?
We lost them.
We lost the public. But we had a very good discussion on our snow day makeup. So next, we're ready for follow-up, old business.
I have a couple items under old business. One would be, after that conversation we had in there, I think we need to formally announce what our snow makeup days will be, how we'll be proceeding with that. The 21st of this month is scheduled as a teacher work day. No students are scheduled to be here. We are making that a scheduled student day. So teachers and students will be coming in on the 21st. It's a regular day of student attendance. For teachers, the 28th will be the end of the second trimester. So they will have the option of using March 1st as their teacher work day to come in and work on grades, work on posting grades and working on scheduling. They may come in on March 1st, or there will be a rescheduled student or teacher workday on Monday, June 2nd. Our 3 remaining days to be made up will be made up May 27th, May 28th, May 29th. The teacher workday scheduled for the 27th will now be scheduled for the 30th of May, with the June 2nd day as that optional day.
We should probably note that the March 1st day that teachers can use for their workday is a Saturday.
Correct. Teachers may come in on Saturday, and that will be that's at their discretion, but that will be a regular workday for them if they choose to make it that way.
And if they come in on that Saturday, March 1st, then they will not need to come in on
June
June
2nd.
2nd
As the calendar now stands.
as the calendar, but the calendar could change.
Depending on what this winter holds, if we have more snow days, stand by. We may,
Wow.
I would say the one to reiterate for this meeting that's gonna play is that February 21st is now a school day.
it's a school
Yes.
day.
For
Students-
everyone.
Are
Students
we
do
going
not
to
have
send
it.
something
This-
out on that?
Oh, yes, oh,
Okay.
yes.
I was
Just to
getting,
make
I was getting ready to ask that, going to be in big bold print on the website.
We'll be sending that out in a number of ways, and I will hope that our media partners will also help us with that.
Oh, yeah. that-
Thank you, Rachel.
And teachers communicating to the students in the classroom.
My second item that I wanted to talk about is, we've had a number of conversations this year already, even though it's a short session, with our legislators and with people in the General Assembly. And the Richmond Community Schools stands to lose almost $1 million if the business personal property tax is eliminated. And right now, there is movement afoot to eliminate that. Richmond Community Schools loses $1 million, almost $1 million. Centerville loses more than $250,000. And all the districts in this county stand to lose a significant portion of their property tax levied funds. Now, in our case, if we lost some of that capacity, and some of those funds, if we were going to operate, for example, the transportation as just business as usual, we would dip into our general fund monies or rainy day funds to bail that out to make it happen. That's the frightening portion, because we have right-sized our district and we have eliminated a lot of our potential revenue sources by way of cutting. The next cuts that we would have to do, if it's general fund, would be serious personnel and programming cuts. We would like to avoid that. The superintendents in Wayne County submitted a letter, just a very, very brief letter to the point, to our two legislators, urging them not to support this legislation. And we delineated what the impact would be under the current potential language. And so what I'm asking the school board to do tonight is to adopt a resolution very much like schools across the state are doing. We would not be the first. About 30 of the rural schools have already adopted a similar resolution, and urban schools across the state are adopting a very similar resolution that I'm asking you to examine tonight. And if you could find it in your means to adopt this resolution tonight, we will submit this to our legislators. In fact, we'll submit this to the governor and to as many members of the General Assembly as possible.
Okay, Aaron, would you please read the resolution?
Certainly. Whereas Governor Mike Pence has proposed eliminating the business personal property tax as the top priority of his 2014 legislative agenda, and whereas the Indiana House and Senate have both proposed legislation what we foresee as first steps towards complete elimination of Indiana's business personal property tax, and whereas eliminating business personal property from the assessed valuation will cause a shift to real property tax for any properties below the circuit breakers and could lead to increased personal income taxes, and whereas Indiana consistently ranks in the top 10 of states with an attractive business tax climate, yet a community's quality of life is an increasingly greater influencer of business relocation and growth decisions, and whereas the business personal property assessed value of Richmond Community Schools in Wayne County in the amount of $177,338,000 results in an estimated $993,000 $1,093 loss in tax revenues. And whereas none of the proposals being considered by the Governor of Indiana General Assembly contemplate any replacement revenues for those revenues they are eliminating via the full or partial elimination of the business personal property tax. And now therefore be it resolved by the Richmond Community Schools Board of School Trustees that we oppose any proposal to eliminate all or any portion of the business personal property tax without a corresponding replacement revenue stream implanted by the state of Indiana. This resolution shall become effective upon the date of passage.
Do I have a motion to accept this resolution?
So moved.
Motion made by Aaron Stevens, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions? So who's going to benefit from this?
The businesses that would be, that would see a reduction in their taxes would be the ones to benefit from this.
Okay.
And it's to attract supposedly new businesses.
Right, that is the purpose.
Bob?
In 2008-9, we had an assessed value of $1,673,000,000. Our assessed value today, because of what's happened generally throughout the United States, is $1,433,000,000. So we've lost $200 million. Now, what you understand, when you have rate capped funds, you lose $200 million, you lose $20,000 a penny. And they're rate capped, so you do with less, which is what we've all been doing. But I mean, so this was just wanting to add another $177 million left. And that's why he said, if it's rate capped, like transportation and that, then you just get less money. And if you want the same service, you have to go to the general fund. And that's what Dr. Moore, so you have to follow how this works through the formula and through the tax rates of the citizens of Wayne County.
So, Dr. Borf, could you explain, or Bob, or both of you, exactly how this almost $1 million loss will impact us as a school corporation? Yes, we're losing money, but what will that mean for us?
If we broke that down proportionately across the funds, and I'm not sure that that's how it would happen.
I'm not very basically, it would take $200,000 out of your debt service, which you can't do that because you have to pay your debt. They're not going to say, I appreciate you having less money. So you have to pay your debt. Mm-hmm. You have to pay your pension bond, and you're going to have to buy your school buses. So 100% of those are going to be paid for. So that $900,000 loss, in theory, has to come out of capital projects and transportation.
Yeah.
A la Muncie, of what they're trying to do with their transportation. And now they've decided they will have transportation in Muncie. That's a very good deal. Now the $3 million that they've lost on that is going to have to come out of the general fund. If 92% of your general fund is salary and benefits,
You know what that means.
you take 900. We have a $2.5 million transportation fund. We have a $3 million capital projects fund. All of a sudden, I've now got $2.1 million in transportation. That means we have to cut $450,000 out of it. And we have to cut another $450,000 out of capital projects, which in 2004 was $4.9 million, and it's $3 million today. I mean, these are real dollars we're talking about. You know, this isn't a, oh golly, I mean, that's why we put the assessed value in there with the dollars. People don't get confused with assessed value and dollars. There's a relationship to them. We'll lose $177 million in assessed value and $1 million in revenue that will go to capital projects, maintaining our buildings, and transportation.
The irony of this whole thing is that we have been, for the last decade, working under the very clear statement and assumption, I was going to say, that a good educational system drives economic development. That's what we have been told. That's one of the reasons we've had such scrutiny, and that's why we've improved. I mean, we have really been attentive to that. And now the same group, the General Assembly, that has talked about the importance of seeing education as a driver of economic development is proposing legislation that would cripple us, and all for the sake of economic development. That's the weird twist in this whole piece.
Well, I really appreciate you obviously working with the other superintendents and bringing this to our attention so that we could obviously approve it tonight and it can go to the right places in a timely manner. Anybody else have any comments?
And that just affects public schools?
It does not just affect public schools. No, it's a huge impact on the entire county, city government, county government, libraries. They're all feeling it.
Would it serve any good purpose, or would there be an opportunity for any of us to speak, go over to Indianapolis, for example, to lobby or do anything?
I don't think it would. I don't think it would hurt. I don't know when they're hearing. I don't know when the next. I'm just not sure when this bill comes up.
Okay.
But this is an effort. This resolution has been it has been made in conjunction with the Cities and Towns Association. A number of entities have joined together to raise their voices on this.
I understand the perceived value in this legislation, and I don't want to appear insensitive to that, but at the same time, it feels like they are cutting their nose off in spite of their face, in the sense that they're really crippling the infrastructure of local government and the school systems with this, without providing some type of a stopgap, some type of alternative to mitigate that decision. It seems very short-sighted.
I don't know how firm it is, but one of the ideas was that maybe the revenue stream could be replaced with local option income tax. I don't know how practical it would be to think that we could recoup $1 million by raising the local income tax. And we're just.
And it shifts the.
We're just one of the entities affected.
Plane, I guess, if you will. We get to be the bad guys that do that then.
Well, and it shifts the burden onto our citizens, our local citizens, who are just beginning to maybe have a little hope for the future, that they might get up out of this rut that we've been in economically in our area, and it just seems, it doesn't seem appropriate.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the cause tonight? Suzanne?
Is this under the context of old business, basically?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to sort of follow up on our conversation about telling our story and marketing. Couple things that came out of the marketing committee and our last conversation here. I had said that I was going to share with you a few talking points at the next board meeting, which I actually have in hard copy form, but I think I'm going to email them to you when we finish here, because I have a little more information to add. And the idea was that you would sort of share those things, have conversations with 5 people maybe between now and the next board meeting. So I would like to do that, and I want you to be watching your email for that. And then the other piece of that is that we've also sent, just today, I sent out an email to the entire staff, so you should see that in your email also, asking for success stories of kids that you know that came out of our school system. Of course, we want all of them, but we're particularly looking for students who've been out of school for, like, say, 4 to 15 years that are in their first really cool job, still are in that younger group, but have begun a career and have that. So sort of relatable to the younger student, but have that first cool job. So if you have those people, which I know you all do, and I already have some coming in, so.
Suzanne, would it be appropriate for you to verbalize what the talking points are?
Oh, sure. A couple things that basically in speaking with folks in some of the offices and looking at the website, the 100th day of school. Why? Why do we do that? What's that about? Because that was everywhere I saw, all over Facebook. So that's on there. The Richmond Area Career Center, because of the video, people wanting maybe a little more information or being able to refer them to that video and say, hey, vocational ed exists. The Business Professionals of America qualifiers, because we have that. The Chinese students, and then the snow day resolution is one of the things that I have on that talking point list.
Great. Anybody else have anything? If not, we are adjourned.